Confronting high credit card debt can feel scary, but the good news is, if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, financial relief options are now available. National Debt Relief is currently offering debt relief designed to reduce what you owe and put you on the fast track to becoming debt-free. If you qualify for debt relief, you may be able to pay back less than what you owe and save thousands of dollars. Just visit nationaldebtrelief.com. Imagine only paying one low monthly program payment you can afford and saving money as you become debt-free. National Debt Relief has already helped bring debt relief to over 550,000 U.S. consumers, earning thousands of five-star reviews and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. You're stronger than your credit card debt. Let today be the day you start turning things around. Take the first step and visit nationaldebtrelief.com to see what debt relief you may qualify for. That's nationaldebtrelief.com.
A text says, "You're on my mind." A bouquet from 1-800-Flowers says, "You're my everything." Heartfelt moments belong in the real world, not just your phone. For 50 years, 1-800-Flowers has helped millions of people make memories that'll last a lifetime with gifts they'll cherish forever. Their expertly curated arrangements and gift baskets ship nationwide with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't wait for the next big moment. Make it when you visit 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
An aspiring animator clashes with his abusive father. Join us as we discuss a Brat Packer who seems to have skipped his 30s, a hand-me-down LeBaron, and how the MPAA made this movie better. Then we see if Freddy Got Fingered stands the test of time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah, and the guy who got fingered is you, James Brief?
Nope.
No, you didn't like that one? Okay, how about this? The Glenn Humplick to my Tom Green, you, James Brief. Do you know who Glenn Humplick is?
No, I don't.
Okay, that was Tom Green's sidekick on The Tom Green Show. I wasn't a religious watcher of The Tom Green Show, but I was a fan. Did you watch that back in the late 90s?
No, I didn't really get into it, but probably if you asked me, I'd probably say, oh yeah, he's really funny. It just seemed like a lot of like wacky stuff. I just never watched it myself.
So you're saying you were a poser? Because if someone asked you if you liked it, you would say yes, even though you weren't watching it? Are you admitting to being a poser 25 years later?
No, it's not that. I wouldn't pretend to be a big fan of his. I thought it was funny because other people were saying it.
Well, all right, so you weren't watching The Tom Green Show. Did you listen to Lonely Swedish, parentheses, the Bum Bum song?
I have no idea what those words or the parentheses words mean in that sentence.
Wow, you didn't listen to the Bum Bum song? I used to love the Bum Bum song. And since watching Freddy Got Fingered the other day, I have been listening to the Bum Bum song on repeat. Listen to it after we're done recording. Put it on. It's on Spotify. It is this kind of humor. It's the Tom Green sensibility. It is out there. It's silly. It's absurd. If you like this sort of sense of humor, then listen to the song. If you don't like it, then don't listen to the song. And I guess we'll find out if you like this sort of thing. But before we get into the movie, I do just want to tell you a real quick story. So 25 years ago, I was going on a date. We decided we were going to see a movie, and we were kind of going back and forth. What do you want to see? I don't care. What do you want to see? You pick the movie. No, you pick the movie. The girl eventually was just like, you pick. I was kind of into Tom Green, and I said, let's go see Freddy Got Fingered. We went, we watched it. She did not enjoy the movie at all. But guess what, James? 25 years later, we're about to celebrate the anniversary of our first date. So yeah, this was me and Courtney's first movie date. She married me after I took her to see this.
This movie came out the same weekend that number one at the movies was Bridget Jones's Diary. So I'm just telling you.
Hey, she said I could pick, and I said, are you sure? And she said, yes, I don't care, whatever. I made sure that she was okay with this pick.
You could have picked the number 2 film, Spy Kids. You probably would have had a better time. The number 3 film, a Morgan Freeman film, Along Came a Spider. Number 5, Blow with Johnny Depp. You did probably beat Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, which that also came out that weekend.
Tom Green says that this movie bombed at the box office because he thinks a lot of younger fans were buying tickets for Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles and then sneaking in to the R-rated Freddy Got Fingered.
That's possible, because Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, I'm surprised it even made like $7.7 million on its first weekend.
I'm pretty sure Courtney and I were not the only people in the theater when we saw it. It was pretty empty, but we weren't literally the only two.
Oh, I'll tell you now, it made $7 million opening weekend, and eventually made $14 million. So that is one of the worst multipliers ever. It's a 2 times multiplier.
It was a bomb.
It's a big bomb. But for people that haven't seen the film before, do you want to tell them what it's about?
No, you do it. You tell him.
Okay, I will. This movie is about Gord Brody, an immature aspiring cartoonist. Gord tries to make it in LA, but when he's rejected by the head of an animation studio, he moves back in with his parents. His relationship with his father, Jim, becomes increasingly antagonistic, with Gord falsely accusing Jim of sexually abusing Gord's younger brother, Freddy. Meanwhile, Gord begins a romantic relationship with a woman named Betty, who wants to build a rocket-powered wheelchair for herself. She's eventually successful, which inspires Gord to create a new cartoon about a family of zebras with an abusive father, inspired by Jim. The studio gives Gord $1 million to make a TV show about the zebras, and Gord uses the money to shower Betty with jewels and get revenge on his father.
Right. Okay, we already discussed that it was a bomb. So I saw this movie in the theater. Had you ever seen this movie before?
I've seen this movie before. I saw it yesterday.
I meant before you watched it for the podcast, obviously, James.
I will say, not only have I never seen this film, I have never seen anything like this film before in my life.
That is very, very much the point. That was very, very deliberate. I'm curious, when did you first realize that this was a unique thing that you were watching? Was it the horse jerking off? That's pretty early in the movie.
Maybe it's the jerking off. Although I can almost say even Conan O'Brien has the masturbating bear. He's had that forever.
Big difference, though.
Yes,
the masturbating bear is a guy in a costume wearing a diaper. This was a real horse that Tom Green actually really in real life put his hands on its penis for the shot.
I didn't even know that. I just assumed it was fake.
Not fake.
All right, fine. I will tell you the part that I knew this movie was absolutely ridiculous. Boom, you hit a deer. He not only skins the deer, but then wears the bloody deer carcass on himself.
Right.
When he lifts his arms up and down like he's flapping his wings, you can see the under parts of the fur, and props to the props department, props to props. That was a very disturbing, not like I really lost my lunch or something, but what the fuck? So to answer your question, no, Al, I don't think the jerking off a horse was the point when I said, what the fuck is going on here? I think the line was crossed with the wearing the bloody deer carcass for comedy.
Well, it's funny because wearing the deer carcass comes after he jerks off the horse. And also, the reason he puts on the deer carcass is because the CEO, played by Anthony Michael Hall of the animation company, he tells Gord that he needs to get inside the animals, meaning to understand his animated characters, his cartoon characters, and he means get inside them into their heads to understand their personalities. But Gord is very literal, and when you see him pull over and he sees the dead deer and he imagines the guy saying, get inside the animals, you think for a second, he's going to fuck the dead deer. And he doesn't. He puts on the carcass. So that is unexpected. And then a Mack truck hits him at full speed. It's pretty funny how the dummy of Tom Green really flies down the road. And then he gets up and says, boy, I didn't expect that to happen, which is kind of a meta line. None of this is expected.
Right. He says it without his face pounded in.
Right.
I was surprised that I liked Anthony Michael Hall's character. I thought he's going to be the douchey Hollywood guy. No, you're no good. Even a douchey Hollywood producer. If the guy's eating lunch, you don't pitch him your idea in a restaurant. That's so inappropriate.
Well, also, he's dressed as a cop, and he told his assistant that his wife was dead.
No, he's dressed as like a Bobby. He's dressed as like an English Bobby. Like, it's such a ridiculous, like, with the tall, like, hat.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, it's all ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. Horrifically inappropriate.
But even in that notion, this executive, like, actually takes the moment to look at him, and then he tells him it's shit, because it is. But he actually, like, gives him, like, what he has to do to actually be successful. Like, you have to change this, this, and this. I was surprised. I thought the character was a little more charming than I thought he would be.
That's a fair point. I couldn't help but think that Anthony Michael Hall looked like he was in his mid-40s. And I'm not saying that as an insult, as a man in his mid-40s, but he looks so baby-faced in Vacation and Weird Science and Breakfast Club. And this movie is like 15-ish years later, and now he looks like a middle-aged dude. He's not. He's in his early 30s when they film it. Maybe it's just because of his baby face, but I was like, was he ever in his 30s, or did he just go from teen to middle age?
You're forgetting Edward Scissorhands, Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh, I definitely am. I forgot that.
That's when he started getting jacked, and he started really looking a lot different. Whenever I see him in these films, I go, wow, what a freaking transformation that guy had.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to talk about in this film, and that is the fact that he drives a Chrysler LeBaron. Mm-hmm. I drove a LeBaron in high school. My brother got a used LeBaron, and then it was a hand-me-down to my sister Joanna, and then a hand-me-down to me.
Okay.
And LeBarons, like in this movie, are almost always convertibles. Really kind of cool cars, like a really good like teenager car in like the early 90s, or for my brother, late 80s. My car was not a convertible, and I never, ever, ever saw a non-convertible LeBaron. We used to call my car, me and Joanna, we'd call it a limited edition model 1 of 1. Like, there were several people in my high school that had a convertible LeBaron, and of course they did, because they had LeBarons. It was a great car, but I always think, everyone had a convertible but me. Aww. But then again, if our LeBaron was a convertible, we never would have been allowed to have that car. So I really shouldn't think, I wish my LeBaron was a convertible, because it never would have been the convertible.
To me, the thing about the LeBaron is that it is just a funny name. And when the dad character gives Gord the LeBaron, and then he's kind of rubbing it in his face of his little brother Freddy, he's like, well, you didn't get a LeBaron. I only see one LeBaron. Look at the LeBaron. I have a LeBaron. You don't have a LeBaron. Mm-hmm. And that was a thing that Tom Green did a lot. He would find words that just sound funny, and then he would say them over and over again. In the Bum Bum song, he says the word Swedish so many times. Swedish, Swedish, Swedish. I remember he did a bit about tubing, medical tubing. Tubing.
Family Guy would do that, and David Letterman would sometimes do that, where he would just go, a barafuco. And right. Letterman, of course, Oprah, he finds out, is not as funny as people thought it would be. Wow, that is a deep dive reference to the 1996 Oscars. Because, Letterman famously bombed the Oscars, and that was one of his big jokes. He thought saying Oprah over and over was going to be funny.
Oh. Okay. Let's talk about Betty, the love interest in this movie, who really loves the game of flipping a creamer over, like a coffee creamer. I did kind of think that this was ahead of its time. As a father, I remember, 5-10 years ago, when all the kids were just flipping water bottles. That was the game that kids would do. Yeah. They would take a water bottle, fling it up into the air, and see if they could get it to land standing upright. It got annoying when kids were doing it all the time, but I do remember my grandmother-in-law saying, we want these kids to not be on screens all the time, and here they are playing a game in the real world. It's harmless. It's cute. But the thing about Betty is that she says that she is basically a rocket scientist because she's so smart. And then later on in the movie, we find out that she kind of is a rocket scientist because she does make her rocket-powered wheelchair work. But when she first says, I'm a rocket scientist, that made me think of a friend of mine's ex-wife. I'm not going to name names, but I remember she said that she was basically a rocket scientist because she used to watch a lot of Mr. Wizard as a kid. And so she really knew her stuff. She considered herself basically a rocket scientist. I'm pretty sure she said that to Courtney, who has a PhD and has worked as a scientist, and it was horrifically offensive.
That's the definition of the Dunning-Kruger effect. I mean, you read a Wikipedia article and you think you're an expert on something.
The what effect?
You never heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No.
It's a graph of people's perception of their knowledge about something. So it's very high up when you learn a little bit about something, and then it gets very low. Like PhD students think they know very little about quantum physics.
Okay.
Versus someone who reads, like, you know, they watch one YouTube video about quantum physics, then they kind of talk out of their ass.
Interesting. I thought her character was pretty funny, that she just wants to get hit in the legs, which she can't feel, and then give Gord blowjobs.
I have to say that this is the kind of movie that I was like, uh-oh, rocket-powered wheelchair. They might blow up this woman. I don't think this woman has plot armor in this film.
Fair.
Nothing happens, and she's wildly successful with a rocket-powered wheelchair. And she's kind of funny. She's beautiful. She wants to give blowjobs, and she's kind of funny. I liked her character more than I thought I would.
It's interesting that you say that you thought she might just blow up or die. There is a lot of insane violence in this movie.
Oh my God.
So much. Basically, there's two characters where it's a running gag where they just constantly get hurt. It's his friend who works at the bank, played by Harlan Williams, Darren. That guy just keeps getting hurt over and over and over again. And then there's the neighbor, Andy, who's an adorable, precocious little boy who just keeps getting hurt every single time he interacts with Gord. It's always an accident, but it just keeps escalating, and it gets worse and worse as the movie goes on. I'm jumping ahead to the end, but Andy dies in the original ending of the movie where he's running towards the plane. You know, he runs into the propeller. It's off screen, but everyone who's in the audience is showered in buckets and buckets and buckets of blood. And in the original ending, it was clear that Andy had died, and it was so extreme that the MPAA gave this movie an NC-17 rating, and so they had to add an ADR line where he says, "Daddy, I'm okay, Daddy," which I would argue is maybe
so
funnier.
Much funnier,
right?
That's actually quite funny.
It is. That was an instance of the MPAA making the movie better with their note.
Right. But it's only because I know the note is there. I don't actually think "Daddy, I'm okay" is that funny. I think it's like, all right, fine.
I thought it was funny, just with the showering of blood. There's no way that kid is okay, or that he could say, "I'm okay." Even if he was technically alive, he would not be able to verbally say the words, "Daddy, I'm okay."
Probably I did think it was humorous, but I only remember laughing out loud at one part.
Okay, what's that?
That is when he and Betty have this really romantic speech at the end, but it's by the helicopter. You as the audience are like, wait, I can't really hear them. Then you find out that Gord can't hear her either. He's like, I can't hear anything you're saying right now because it's a helicopter. I thought that was funny.
That is funny. I also think it's funny when he hands her the jewels and is like, "Look at the jewels. I got you jewels." Again, a funny sounding word that he just repeats over and over again. And she says, "But Gord, I don't care about jewels. All I really care about is sucking your dick." That's a funny line. And I think it is worth pointing out that this movie is a parody of other movies from around the time, other comedies, you know, like the Billy Madison, American Pie kind of movies, where you had these guys who were just idiots. In Billy Madison, in Waterboy, Tommy Boy, you have these grown man children, and there are women who love them and don't really have much reason to, and all they want to do is suck their dick. And I think that is what Betty is parodying here, that it doesn't matter what this idiot man boy child does or says. She just wants to suck his dick.
Yeah, it's funny. The delivering the baby scene.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. Baby delivery scenes are usually way too clean. You know, a baby comes out beautiful, looking like they're 3 months old.
Always.
And Yeah, this movie goes. It definitely is not guilty of what I just said. A lot of shows and movies are guilty of. It went in the other direction, and like you said, buckets and buckets of blood.
Right, right. There's also a moment where it seems like maybe the baby is dead. Watching the movie, you're not sure if the baby's dead. Gore doesn't know if the baby's dead. The mom doesn't know if the baby's dead. And then, he starts swinging the baby around by the umbilical cord, and then it's fine. Gord is saying, I saved the day. I saved the day. I'm the hero. I guess you people don't like heroes, as they're dragging him out. I think even the possibility of a dead baby joke in this movie is too far. But counterpoint to that is everything in this movie is taking the joke too far. So it does kind of work. Also, it doesn't make any sense that he's going to visit his friend in the hospital who has a broken leg, and next to him is a woman who's going to be delivering a baby. Those would be separate wards, different parts of the hospital. But again, you don't think about it because earlier in the movie, he got hit by a truck and was fine. So you can't nitpick the locations of different people within the hospital. I did want to take a second and talk about Rip Torn, the late Rip Torn, who plays the father in this movie. It's basically just a one-note character. He's the angry dad. I've been rewatching The Larry Sanders Show on HBO. That show is amazing for so many reasons, but Rip Torn is a highlight of that show, where he just plays the brilliant and thoughtful showrunner on the fictional Larry Sanders TV show. He's the guy who thinks of everything. He knows how to anticipate everything that's going to happen. He's brilliant. And it's a very, very different role than this movie.
It's a different kind of role. I think he's usually funnier. I don't think that his material is that great in this film, to be honest.
A lot of it is violence, where he grabs Gord out of the shower, the glass smashes and he throws him into the toilet. I mean, he is a mean, angry, vindictive guy.
In a weird way, I think he's so much more funny as a violent guy that throws a wrench in Dodgeball. I think it works so much better. He just throws a wrench, and that's much more violent and much funnier.
Okay.
I didn't find the violence funny in this one.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, it's so over the top that I think it kind of loops back on itself, where it's not funny and then becomes funny again, in my humble opinion. Probably, at least in my mind, the most memorable scene from the movie is with Jim, the dad, played by Rip Torn, when Gord constructs his sausage keyboard thing and says, "Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? Daddy, do you want some sausage?" And to this day, whenever I am eating sausage, we go to a barbecue restaurant, I will reference that line. Daddy would like some sausage. It's catchy. Had you seen that part before?
I had heard that before.
Okay.
From maybe the trailer or something like that. There's a scene in this film where he's just crawling through a factory with cheese slices on his face and head.
The cheese sandwich factory.
Yeah, and he's just dragging himself on the ground. It's just absurd. And all the workers are working around him.
Well, they're making cheese sandwiches. It's a cheese sandwich factory.
Yes,
what else
exactly.
would they be doing at a cheese sandwich factory?
I just think it's all kind of just ridiculous what's going on in this entire film.
I mean, you could call it absurdist, you could call it surreal, you could call it avant-garde. It's kind of anti-comedy comedy. And, this stuff has been around forever. I feel like we were talking about it when we did Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's out there and you have to like that kind of humor. And it's not for everybody. Like I was saying that this movie kind of is parodying other comedy movies. Like, that's a tough thing to do. Saturday Night Live parodies real life stuff, news or TV shows and things like that. Whereas a show like Monty Python or The State or I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, that's parodying sketch comedy in and of itself. So when you're parodying something that's already funny, again, it kind of folds in on itself. And the way that you do that is by going to extremes. You have to go super out there, super absurd in order to find that kind of comedy.
If this is the kind of thing that could, in a weird way, work. This film, like Ace Ventura, like Dude, Where's My Car, that has a climactic scene about ostriches, I think. You know who I feel bad for in this film is Eddie K. Thomas. He is the eponymous Freddy of Freddy Got Fingered. He's from American Pie a couple years earlier. He was taking his chance here. Tom Green is so big with the 18 to 34 demographic. You know, you can go so far as to say the 12 to 34 demographic. An executive would be smart to take a chance on a low budget film like him. It's just that this just didn't work box office wise. And I feel bad for someone like Eddie K. Thomas.
You also feel bad for his character, Freddy, who is put into a home for sexually molested children, even though he is very clearly an adult. I kind of forgot how late it is in the movie until you get to the plot point that Gord says, Freddy got fingered. That's like maybe 2/3 or so through the movie. And it's not the most important thing in the movie. I think it works as the title because it's provocative. That's the kind of thing that's going to get the fans of the show, the younger audience. I would even say skater kids. Tom Green was into skater culture. There's a whole opening scene where he's skateboarding through the mall. And I think a title like Freddy Got Fingered is going to appeal to that kind of sensibility. It's also kind of funny that Freddy ends the movie still in that home for sexually abused kids. And when Gord and his dad come back from Pakistan, they are treated as heroes because they are these Americans who were held hostage in a far-off country for a year and a half. And it makes sense that Gord would be a hero because apparently his show, Zebras in America, has become a hit while he was gone. But also, if everyone thinks that the dad was molesting his other son, Freddy, it seems kind of weird that he would also get a hero's welcome. But again, you can't really argue logic in a movie like this because there is none.
You know, this was the one part of the film I didn't quite know what this was about. I mean, I didn't know anything about this film, but I was really wondering, is Tom Green the Freddy character? Is this going to be a joke about him getting molested? Ultimately, yeah, of course this doesn't stand up, but I don't think it ever was a funny thing.
You're saying it's not funny to make jokes about kids getting molested?
The way I'm going to answer it, I think it's very stupid to make that the title of your film. And also, you said two important points. This doesn't happen for like 2/3 of the way into the film, and it's not even that important to the plot of the film.
Right.
I just think it's a stupid thing. I think you said the right word. It was provocative. Maybe he had creative control to have the name of the title, but people were begging him to call it literally anything else.
That's definitely a possibility.
It's so bad.
That said, though, I can't off the top of my head think of a better title. Zebras in America?
Yes.
No, that's stupid.
Gord's Got Zebras.
No, that's terrible. Freddy Got Fingered is better than that.
No, it isn't.
Agree to disagree. I think the idea of it was you call this movie Freddy Got Fingered, and that will get butts in seats. Obviously, it didn't work. I'm just saying I can sort of see the logic in it. That makes sense to me. Also, on the movie poster, it's Tom Green making a square with his hands. So his fingers are prominently displayed on the movie poster. He's not Freddy in the movie. And, he doesn't do that motion in the movie. I think that's just kind of meant to symbolize this is Tom Green making a movie. It's his vision. And, he's kind of doing like the director thing, like making a frame for what the shot will look like. But that had to have confused people, I'm sure.
Yeah. I wonder what a 2001 Tom Green is like when they yell cut.
I've read interviews where the answer is he was very quiet. He's a timid guy, and when someone yells action, he fucking goes for it, balls to the wall, insanity. But when he's not being filmed, he is apparently a very quiet guy. He's very reserved. There was a profile on him earlier this year in the Times about how he is now living this very quiet, subdued life on a farm in Canada. He's Canadian. And sometimes people wonder if he's doing a bit. like this farm life thing. And he's like, no, this is just my life. I like it here. I love my animals. I love my family. And he's just a regular guy. But yeah, people who have worked with him have talked about how he is just very quiet and reserved. Kind of weird tangent, but the reason that Joe Rogan has a podcast is because of Tom Green. Tom Green was doing like a web show, I think in the early 2000s, and he had Joe Rogan on. Joe Rogan was like, oh, this is fun. And Tom Green said, do your own show. It's not hard to do, man. Everyone can do it. And, then Joe Rogan became one of or the biggest podcaster ever. And he credits Tom Green for helping him, for giving him the inspiration. I might argue that maybe that isn't the best thing for the country or the world at large, that Joe Rogan's podcast exists and has the influence it does. But definitely good for Joe Rogan. He's made a fuck ton of money for it, and he has Tom Green to thank for it.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Going back to the end of the movie, I did remember that there was a scene with him and his dad in Pakistan. It's super random, but also, it is set up, it is foreshadowed early in the movie, because Jim says, if we were in Pakistan, you'd have been sewing soccer balls since you were 4 years old. And so that's why Gord brings him to Pakistan at the end. The mom character, played by Julie Haggerty, she is dating Shaq. He shows up in a cameo. That's also foreshadowed, because when Gord is fighting with the dad, he says to the mom, hey, you should date and you should be with anyone and you should have your sexual desires met by a basketball player. And even the thing in Pakistan where he jerks off the elephant and there's jizz everywhere. Obviously, that's a callback to early in the movie when he's jerking off the horse. So all of this stuff is super, super random, but it is set up. There is structure, and all of these things were clearly planned.
Planned, okay, as in they were written on a screenplay and then filmed.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm just saying, like,
okay.
it comes across as super random, and it is, but also there was thought and intentionality behind that. And I think, kind of going back to your question of like, what was Tom Green like on set or during the production? He did care. He cared about this movie. He wanted it to be something that people would see and have the reaction that you had of, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. This movie got terrible, terrible reviews. The critics hated it. The quote from Roger Ebert is like, it's not the bottom of the barrel. It's not under the barrel. It doesn't even deserve to be in the same sentence as the word barrel, or something like that. I butchered the quote. It's funnier and meaner coming from Roger Ebert. But I say all this to say that Tom Green cared about it. He was intentional about the decisions that he made. So even for the absurdity, it was thought out. But James, I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but I want to know if you think that Freddy Got Fingered stands the test of time.
The whole film is stupid. Just this name alone, it's so dumb. Today, this would be a sketch. This would be a guy with a YouTube channel. And the weird thing is, it might be a wildly successful YouTube channel, but this is a terrible long format movie. So no, this does not stand the test of time. Maybe 15-year-old boys might still like this kind of humor. And I think, yeah, make a YouTube video of this kind of stuff, jumping around in deer skins and fur, but not for me. And I don't think it was for anyone in 2001 either. So no, it doesn't stand the test of time. What do you think, Al? This is a big question mark here. Does it stand the test of time?
You say this movie isn't for you. That's not terribly surprising. One, because I know you, but two, because it's not for many people. It is definitely a niche thing. That said, I think that if you liked this movie in 2001, you'll like it now. If you hated the movie in 2001, you'll hate it now. It's really hard for me to imagine someone saying, oh, I used to love it, but now I hate it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Unless they were faking liking it back then.
If they were a poser like you. Also, while I think that perceptions of this movie wouldn't have changed over the last 25 years, it is worth pointing out that it has developed something of a cult following. I don't know that I would call it a cult classic, but it was a thing that people wanted this movie to be in the Criterion collection. Maybe that was kind of a joke, like, what if they put Freddy Got Fingered, this movie that won all these Razzies, on the Criterion collection? It's not in the Criterion Collection, but the Criterion Channel did show it. That is kind of a stamp of approval, that it does have its fandom, it does have its place, and this kind of absurd, surreal humor, it's alive and well. Eric Andre, Nathan Fielder, Tim Robinson, these guys are doing humor that is carrying the torch of Tom Green and Freddy Got Fingered. To your point about it being maybe more successful as a YouTube series, that's fair. That said, they gave Tim Robinson money to make a feature movie last year, Friendship. That's a fucking weird, bizarre movie. That's pretty goddamn absurd and out there. I don't think that movie made a killing at the box office either, but it has its fans. And I can see why this movie was greenlit. I can see why, I think it was Fox believed in Tom Green that maybe he would break out. He didn't, but movie executives do still give millions of dollars to people hoping that they will. Other than Friendship, I think the other recent movie that this movie kind of evoked was Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. Did you see that one with Kristen Wiig?
No.
I thought it was hilarious. If you didn't like Freddy Got Fingered, you might hate Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar because it's similar sensibility. It's batshit. And, you know, giving Kristen Wiig money to make a movie like that is maybe a safer bet because Kristen Wiig is more known of a movie star. Look, this movie isn't perfect. It's absurdist comedy that kind of works for me. I'm going to say it does stand the test of time because if you liked it then, you'll like it now. And you'll like it 25 years from now. It's not going to age poorly, I don't think. And, you know, is there a little bit of sentimentality in here because this was me and Courtney's first movie date? Yeah, maybe. For what it's worth, I told her that we were doing this movie on the podcast, and she was like, well, I definitely never need to see that fucking movie again.
I agree with Courtney.
I kind of figured that she would have that attitude, and I watched it solo. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. What are we watching next week, James?
Have you ever seen Matilda before?
Yeah, of course. I have kids.
I've never seen Matilda, so let's watch it.
Sure. I've seen it before, but I'm looking forward to seeing it again. In the meantime, I'd love to hear from you guys, the listeners, what you think of Freddy Got Fingered. If you had seen it, if you hated it, if you saw it in the theater, if you never want to see a movie with the word fingered in the title, I get it. I understand that. But write into us. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.